Do 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 Spiritual sex and candy, yeah.
Hey, all you sensual souls. Welcome to Spiritual Sex and Candy. I am Heather, your shamanic sweetener, and we have our illustrious freedom Jedi, JP Adkins. Hi, Jeff.
Hello, everyone. Hi, Heather. It's so nice to see you.
It is so nice to see you. How are you doing today?
It has been a really pretty decent day. I had to go and run some errands in the RV, so I said I don't have to go and sit in a driveway for a little while. I went to the park. I can right now. I can see Canada. It's right there,
Nice.
so it's pretty nice. It's pretty nice. How about you? How was your day?
It was just a day. I don't know. It's got like just funky energy. I don't know what's going on, but I just, it's just been one of those days where it's like I didn't want to get up this morning. I didn't get into the shower until like, I don't know, 10:30, 11 o'clock. It was just one of those days.
Hmm. I hear you. I hear
But I
you.
made dinner and I'm here, so that's all that matters. And I showered. I mean,
You
I
showered. Life is good. I showered today. I
yeah.
similar. I had a very similar day start my day. Um, I woke up. I found out I didn't have any propane. Cool. And then I walked outside and I heard like and realized that somehow the plug came a little undone and almost started a fire. And
Yay.
yeah, so I caught that. I'm like Superman fighting fires today, and went to got propane and then found the
Yeah.
park because there's like six of them down this road, and the one you had to pay to park at, I was like, no, that's stupid. Like, I'm not gonna pay by the hour to sit at the park.
Is that like a pay it by the hour hotel? I'm just
Could have been.
curious.
It really could have been.
Pay by the hour motel that
Uh
get
huh.
them get people in and out of there.
That's a really cool shirt. You should tell them all about it.
Yes, our episode today. We're at episode 37. Everybody fucks funny to somebody. We're gonna own your kink. And if you would like, we have shirts, spiritualsexandcandy.com. Everybody fucks funny to somebody. You can buy it on a shirt. And with that, let's give our trigger warning. We are a trigger warning. It says it in the name of our show, Spiritual Sex and Candy. We named it that for a reason. We say the word fuck. We talk about all of the things, drugs, sex, spirituality, and everything in between that. We talk about trauma, personal traumas, things we've experienced in life. So, if you are easily triggered or you are easily offended, we love you. We don't want to hear any hate. Go listen to someone else.
Love you.
Love you. And if you're still here, support us. Go to spiritualsexandcandy.com. We have all kinds of merch, a bunch of shirts that we have made. You can get everybody fucks funny to somebody. It's a great slogan. I did order one off of the Tickety Talk shop today that are recently that I got the other day that says vasectomies prevent abortions.
We're
It
not going to
ranks a
talk about
close
that.
second to this one right here. What?
We're not going to talk about that.
We're not going to
So
talk about that, but it ranks a close second to my
yes.
favorite shirt because my everybody fucks funny to somebody. Um,
Well, it plays because remember it plays into my days of acid. The 3 days of acid that I was. It was spiritual acid, guys. I was not on any drugs this time.
yeah,
Not that I wouldn't do acid, but I felt like I was on acid. I was in a very big, huge Kundalini awakening. Um, And Heather's like, "You're not allowed to talk on the internet, and for you send things to me first because
Yeah.
I had posted something around what prevents abortions, how we can prevent abortions that was a little, probably not
Right.
huge,
Yeah, I mean, we
inappropriate,
have this beautiful platform that we get to talk about whatever the fuck we want,
right?
and what we post on social media is drastically different for a reason. We both have um other things that we do besides this amazing podcast. And so, we try to not, I mean, we overlap them, but not quite that much.
And it
But
was
I like to piss
inappropriate.
people off, and so I live in a pretty conservative state, and I love to wear things that are going to offend people. And then
Mhm.
I just pray when I wear those things out that someone has the nerve to fucking say something to me. Because I don't talk politics. If you know me, I'm not having a political conversation with you. I'm just not going to do it because
Mhm.
we're probably going to disagree at some point and you're not going to change my mind. And so we're just not going to have a conversation about it because I want to respect you at the end of it.
I'm having a really hard time with that today. I have
Yeah.
someone I respect very much that is saying some things today
Yeah.
that I get where they're coming from, what their perspective is, but like very unnecessary,
Right. Yeah.
you know. And
Yeah.
okay,
And
you
everybody
know,
fucks funny to somebody.
everyone fucks fine to somebody, and politics are all a big clusterfuck. So,
Right. Well, and some of the main issues in politics right now is who you're fucking, how you're fucking them, and whose business is it who you're fucking, and it's none of anyone's business.
I yeah, I have may or may not have done things today while I was sitting here in the park. Um, for deniability purposes, we're gonna may or may not.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
and it was kind of nice, and I took a nap.
There you go. We're going to talk about kink.
Yay! I like
We're going
Kink.
to talk about owning your kink, right? Because
Yeah.
some people, when we say that term, everybody fucks funny to somebody. I had a roommate who used to say that all the time. And it was very befitting because when you think about it, there are people out there that like very vanilla. Is that the word we use nowadays? Vanilla? Very plain, simple, missionary, no freaky deaky stuff.
Little doggy once
Conservative
in a while.
sex? Is it conservative sex? I don't know that conservative.
I don't know that many conservatives, so I can't necessarily.
Right.
I don't
Right.
have these conversations with conservatives.
No.
Um, but what I can tell you is that I'm very much not vanilla. Um, I'm a member of the bondage club, the Detroit Bondage Club.
Right.
I, I actually made their T-shirts. I designed them. Um, you know, I wear it, but yeah, there's when you own your kink, when you can actually just sit there and be in your shit. It's like anything else. They
Right.
can't hold it against you.
Yeah.
And I think for me, it comes back to when I was really a young gay boy, right? And I hadn't come out yet. And there was this guy that we were both going for a promotion. Both of us were getting the promotion. It wasn't like it was one or the other. It was we were both getting promoted.
Right.
Um, and there was space enough for both of us. It wasn't a thing. But I started actually doing the job a little earlier because I had more experience.
Right.
At the end of the day, my sister worked there before I did. I was doing all her shit before then. I was a nerd. I knew shit. You know what I mean? It was just that's I got 100% on my test.
Right.
So
So,
yeah, so the guy finds out I'm gay, decides that he's going to tell people that I'm going gay unless he starts running shifts. Um, and so I said, hey, why don't you take half this other shift for me? Um, that night he decided to steal a deposit. So because he did that, it actually cost me $2 an hour for like years.
Right.
Years. I went from being someone that would have ended up being in a higher level of that pay scale to someone that got not barely kept my job
For not owning who you were.
because I didn't own
Right,
who I
because you were
was.
worried about him
Hmm.
outing you as being gay.
Yep. And so it ended up being a big, huge mess. He got arrested. Um,
Right.
it was found rapidly. So it just became a really big. I and when I finally did come out about a month later, because it was literally at the end of me not being out, I said I'm just gonna live openly, and if you don't want
Yeah.
to know, don't ask me a question. And my family knows that very well. They don't ask me questions they don't want answered.
And let's just and I
And it,
just want to point out that like because we're talking about this that also not every gay because I think there's a stigma around gay men and that all gay men are man whores and they're all into the kink scene and they're all and that's not true either, right? So I just want to throw that out there as we're talking like Jeff's not talking for all gay men out there. So don't come at us about, we're talking
no,
personally you know, our personal experiences and who we are. And I just say that
and
because I know someone out there is going to be like, he's portraying all gay men as man whores and into kink, and like that's not what we're talking about. We're just talking about
not.
owning who you are at whatever level kink you like, right? So in my younger years, I had a lot of people who were into bondage and going to swingers clubs and I grew up in Vegas. Like we have some great clubs there. From what I hear. Um
Mhm.
and no, I actually have not been to any. I've been asked multiple times to go. You don't have to do anything. Just be naked and sit pretty. And I'm like, I'm not a fucking doll. Like. Um I- yeah, that's an objectification that I can't do. It's just not who I am. With that being said, I mean, like, I like a good paddling. I would love to find someone that I trusted enough to do some rope. Um, I was with someone who I trusted very much, who was very much in that scene, and had a good time not being in control because I'm in control all the time.
Mhm.
But for me, that's a very like private thing. I don't really talk about it a whole lot. Like I don't I don't think it's anyone's business. And that could be because when I was younger, I don't know how many people thought I was doing way more people than I was. I had men claiming that they had had sex with me that had not had sex with me. Um and so for me from a very young age that it was a thing of like safety for me and if I'm fucking you, I don't it's none of anyone's business.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there is something to be said about having a where and when, and sometimes the again, it just comes down to what's it, what's the situation.
Yeah.
Like wouldn't necessarily talk about all my kinks on a live broadcast, other than here. Um,
Right.
but when you can own them and you can be able to communicate them and you're not ashamed of them,
Yeah.
and if someone comes at you, it's part of the shadow self that you don't necessarily want everyone to see, but the people that are meant to see them, it's beautiful. When you can communicate what you want in in and out of the bedroom, but in the bedroom especially,
Right.
It's
Well, and I
amazing.
think it's really important to know what you like and what you don't like,
Right.
and to be if you're with someone that you don't trust enough to experiment with in some way, I can promise you, with ladies, I promise you that there's probably not much that your boyfriend is not or husband is not willing to try with you if you wanted to try something.
Hmm.
Just for the record. Um, you may think it's nasty, but I promise you, your man has probably already thought of it. And
If
now
not
there are
thought of,
some men out there that are not like that. I'm not saying everyone's like that. You know your husband, but I can promise you that your husband's thought about all the things that he could possibly do to you and then some.
mhm. And if he hasn't thought of it, it's not that it will most likely. There's a few. Of course, as soon
Right,
as I said that, like three people popped in my face. Like they wouldn't. They would
r-
blush.
right.
You would really like to try that, and it would take a little bit,
Yeah,
and maybe they won't. Maybe it's that you watch some porn around it. Maybe you watch, that's a healthy way of using porn
right.
to, you know, really just intensify a situation.
Yeah,
Maybe it's, trying a little bit. Maybe it's, we don't have to do the whole degradation scene, and have somebody singing and getting golden showers. Like, it doesn't have
right.
to happen.
Yeah,
It could be much, it could be holding it for
right.
them. It could be, which is, it can be very, one of my, one of my favorite scenes I've ever been involved in. One of my favorite scenes, somebody was aiming for them with their mouth into a
Oh,
toilet. So literally, it was around their
right.
penis, and they were aiming into a toilet, and it
See, you
was.
guys think of some shit that like that would never cross my mind to do. Like, you know, I would never think of that. But now, here's the other side of that. Like you know, we have to touch base on the whole dom submissive, especially with everything online. And I love how there's all these men out there that's like, I'm a dom and yeah, like da, 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 da. And I'm like, you know, um, in those types of relationships, and I have known many to be on both sides of that. That is a very trusted. You earned that,
Mhm.
right, that dynamic with someone. That is not something that is just I mean, I
Yeah. Uh, so
to
a
live
true.
that way or to have a true dom sub relationship, because I'm not talking about going to the bondage club and
And having a scene,
letting
and
Steve, I don't know, I'm
right,
making his name up, but but like
having a scene.
knowing Steve from the bondage club and knowing that you're in a safe environment, that really, if
Yeah,
something were to go down, you were, someone's going to step in and not allow you to be harmed, right? Because
it's one of the reasons
um
why I like leather groups. Is because when they have play parties, you can try some of the things that you may have been interested in and
right,
maybe had a inkling about, but maybe a little extreme, and may want somebody else there to like make sure that it doesn't go, that you can safe word safely.
right, yeah.
Um, so safe words. I'm like, okay, this is Kink 101 here. Let's go.
I mean,
A
you could do one on, 101, kink 101, like, yeah, if you're going to be in that relationship.
Yeah, their safe words are important. You want to have something that slows down. So it might be like you might need to like get more explanation. You might need to, have a conversation and not necessarily like stop things. And then you need a stop word. A word that
Right.
just stops it. There you go.
And stop is not the word.
Yeah, stop is not the word ever.
It's got to be something you wouldn't normally say
Right.
in that encounter, right? I
And
mean,
and what one of the things I really like that's really simple and it's kind of a universal like default is red and yellow. Yellow is slow down, red is stop. If you are in a default scene,
Yeah,
and you haven't made up something with it had that conversation with your partner, it's a really good way to, it's kind of one of those understood.
yeah,
Um, and back to what Heather was saying, a true dom, a true dom is it's really about serving the sub.
right, right. The sub is really the one that has the control.
Right. It's about knowing what they want, knowing where they're at, and
Yeah,
knowing and looking at what you like in order to do that.
yeah.
So I don't like spanking. I am I am very much I know, and it hurts me on my soul level because I would really like it. I like the whole idea of it is very
Being
wonderful to me.
spanked.
What? Being spanked or even spanking. I'm not it doesn't do anything for me.
I like a good whack. I
Yeah.
do.
And I
But
and
that's
I
one
un-
of those foreplay things for me as well,
mhm.
right? Is one of those like I'm in the kitchen and you're smacking my ass or touching my ass. Like because I like to do the same thing. Not that I want to walk by and, give a little squeeze,
that's
that sort of thing.
that's a whole
Um,
different conversation. Like a little pat on the ass is one
oh
thing.
no, I had a paddle at one point. I owned a paddle.
Hmm. My the whole for me if I'm a switch. Not that everyone needed to know that I'm a switch. I am a true switch. I can dom and sub as willingly and depending on the situation, the person. Um, and I've had really great relationships on both sides of that.
Right.
So as a dom, it just doesn't like I would prefer to I have other ways to discipline you, and one of my big kinks is humiliation. So I would do something on that level rather than
A
spank
paddle.
a paddle. And as a sub, it takes me completely out of subspace. I like it's a scene ender. Like I can't like, and I don't. It's funny because I wasn't really hit as a child so much. I mean, my mom hit us quite a bit. But it wasn't. It just it's a scene ender for me.
I so here's the other side to this for me is that I don't want to do that all the time. Like
Mhm.
I'm not a regular basis kink kind of, you know,
Mhm.
like I don't want to go out in public and I mean I say that, but I have been known to I like to have sex in public places. I like to
Mhm.
do things in public places, but I do not like to but it's about getting caught. It's that adrenaline of I should not be sitting on your lap at this concert right now or whatever the case may be
Mhm.
or pull over on the side of the road and have sex on the hood of the car or, like things like that. I
Mhm.
have been kicked out of a sex shop before though.
See, I've never. That's a new
I
one.
and in Vegas. I
I
mean, that's
you
talent there. I was
you are
giving a blowjob to another patron that was not with us.
you know
And then he was a dumbass and went and said something. Right. And then they were like, "You can't do that here." And we're like,
yeah
"Peace out. We'll leave."
yeah. As soon as you because as soon as you tell. So the bar that I normally go to, one of the bars I go to consistently here, um, they allegedly have a backspace that on the patio that people have gone and done things on
Right.
allegedly. Um,
There have been stories of
there
people
have been stories of this happening.
of this right happening. Right.
Of this happening.
Right.
There are stories, and the
Yeah.
cops were there this weekend. So There was a bondage club meet and greet, and they went in for a license check. It was, you know, they did all three gay bars that are on that strip. They're they're pretty close to each other. They did all three of
Right.
them, but that one was the one that everyone was talking about. Oh my god, they got raided. All
They
of them
got
got raided.
raided.
Right, and it's
Wasn't the
bad.
FBI like
Well, it's the Detroit, it's the Detroit cops, and they're in SWAT gear, and there's seven of them, and
right.
they come in looking like it's a raid, like it's.
On
I've been
purpose.
I've been in that space. I've been the manager in that space when it's happened.
Right.
It is scary. You are intimidated. And they're looking for drugs. They're looking for sex. They're looking for all of it. And they do it at all the bars. It's not like it's a gay bar thing. This happens everywhere. It's something they have to do. They have to check your licensing, and they're going to do. But if they hear some things, sometimes they accelerate that.
Right.
So um, it's actually how the one gay bar is now in a completely different ownership because they were serving underage people.
Right. Yeah.
So
Do you guys have any actual bondage clubs there? I mean, like bondage facilities. Are they called clubs? I don't see. I don't even know. I guess
um,
it would be a sex club, bondage club.
there are a couple. There is a bathhouse. There was used to be two bathhouses. There is two bathhouses.
Well,
One of
that's
them is
different.
free.
That's not. I'm not talking about bathhouses.
Yeah, an actual bondage facility. That's
Yeah.
actually a bondage facility. Um, the bondage club has one, but it's not like it's open. It's open for the play parties.
Right.
Um, there, I know that a couple other leather groups, some of their leaders have really good spaces. But I don't
Right.
think there's anything that is specifically
Do we really call them dungeons?
dungeons. Yeah,
It's really a dungeon.
it's really dungeons.
I just, I have to ask all the questions. So, I mean, I'm from Vegas, so there's actually one that's not far off of the strip. I'm not gonna, I'm not putting anything out there.
Hmm.
Um, so when I first moved here, I know that there's one not far from me here because one of the first conversations, hey men, by the way, I mean, I give this guy kudos that he brought it up and put it out there. But like say something in your profile about that or something, right? But so I'm having a conversation with this guy and he proceeds to tell me that he was talking to a chick from the dating site and she invited him to go to a bondage club,
Hmm.
a sex club, you know. And um and then he proceeded to tell me about it. And I was like, "Oh, I mean, he told me where it was, like where it was located, the name of it, all the things." And I was like, I in no way in this conversation did I even indicate that I wanted to know that,
Yeah.
And then finally I said to him, and I said things back like, oh, wow, okay, that's interesting. Cause like, I'm trying to not feed into it.
Uh huh.
But then, and finally I said to him, hey, just future reference, that's probably not the first story you should tell a woman when you're talking to them.
Right.
Like just because even if I am into it, I'm not going with you
Because yeah, I mean it's
because
not.
now I don't feel safe. Like if you open up with, let's go to a sex club on our first on our first meeting, I'm probably not hooking up with you.
No. Uh, that's one of the differences between gay men and straight men. Um, a gay couple and a straight couple though, because
Right.
it's almost assumed that we're going to have sex. I mean, let's face it, dating for most, not all. I'm not talking for all gay men, but it's a it's an epidemic. It's easier to get a blowjob than it is to get a hug in this community.
Wow.
Okay.
I'm doing something wrong.
So,
Just kidding.
um,
No, I'm
but
not offering blowjobs, just for the record.
um, so it's a lot harder to have that actual date,
Yeah.
and when you find that actual date, it's kind of rare, and it's nice sometimes, and sometimes you wish they would have just shut up and blow you. Um, Often I find out that I would have much rather just
I
not
mean, I
have that
definitely
contact.
have the theory of you should test drive the vehicle before you buy the vehicle. So, like, I might not fuck you on the first date, and that really depends on chemistry, by the way.
Mm.
But what I'm not gonna do is go into it with you thinking we're having sex
By the way,
because
don't say that in your profile because that's a trigger word for people that do meth.
wait, what?
Don't ever put that in your profile.
Well, I would never put that in my profile.
I got it. But I mean anything about chemistry or ice cream.
Oh, 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 oh. I'm like, what did I say? Okay, that makes more sense.
Yeah.
I'm like, what did I say that I shouldn't put in my profile? Um, I never even thought of that.
Hmm. It's
I've
a
not I've never even thought of that.
you should
That's
also
funny that
not
you brought
use
that up.
a spade in your profile unless you like uh people of color. Just a couple things.
See, I'm not good at this. I'm not good
And
at this. I also am not a good flirter. I shouldn't say that. If I don't like you, you will think I'm flirting because I'm nice and I will smile at you and I'll have a conversation with you and all of those things. If I really like you, I am awkward as fuck. I am like the little kid who then wants to punch you and pull your hair and fuck with you. And I'm super fucking awkward around you. If I really like you, I'm super awkward about around you. And if you like me, like you have to tell me because I have had a lot of male friends where people are like, I can't believe you guys are just friends. And I'm like, well, they've never put a move on me. I mean, I was really good friends with one of the pirates at Treasure Island on the strip. Like he was one of the pirates that swung out on the rope and and people are like, "You're not fucking him?" And I'm like, "No. We're friends." Now, looking back on that, can I just say, right. Missed opportunity maybe, but we were just really good friends and I think he liked the fact that I was not trying to fuck him,
yeah, there is something
you
to be
know.
said with the people that being able to have a friendship too.
Yeah.
Um,
Like I could be friends with a guy and not like I have no issue being friends with a guy. I am friends with men who I know want to get in my pants. And as long as there's the mutual respect that they know that that's not going to happen, I have a very, very good friend of mine. And we go back and forth, and he helps me to stay accountable about my body and all of those things. And if you saw our conversations, you would totally think that like there had to be something going on. And there's not. He knows that it would never happen. It's never, like and we have talked about it, and I'm like, never, ew, never. Like, I love you, but that's never happening, type of thing. Um,
mhm.
but men don't always view it that way. I think that's why. So I think part of why I do not talk about my kink a whole lot and the things that I like, and even here I've only put a small. I'm telling you, when I find the person, he's a lucky man because I'm down for some stuff. If I trust you, those rooms we were just talking about, like,
Yeah, I mean,
you know, but
what?
with that being said, you are not bossing, like, there is no, I'm not submissive to you outside of the bedroom. You're not going to discipline me. Like, I don't play that role. Like, I just want to have really great fucking sex and do all the fucking things in the bedroom. Like, but what, I
but
am
it has to
not
be
a sub in
supportive.
the sense of,
Yeah, and if they are the person that if they are a good dom and really a good and really understanding what you need where you need it,
right,
it might be some accountability.
right,
It might be, you get this if you get to do this. Well, we'll do this. Or you don't get to do this.
right.
You know.
Yeah, see,
Um
I'm not bartering for sex. See, for me, that is now you're bartering for sex, and I'm not down for that. That does not turn me on.
it would depend on what your again, it would depend on the relationship that you're in. I have been in situations where that was very helpful. Um and I've been on both sides of that situation where it's been very helpful for the whoever was the sub because
Right.
it made them focus and get shit done. It just
Oh, like the
depends on
reward system? Yeah,
the
sex is
reward,
probably not what you wanna use with me for that.
you know, but it could be,
Do you know what I'm saying? Like, that's just not who I am, and, like, again, I'm not saying I know people that live that way. I know people that live in a dom sub relationship all the time. They're married to their dom. That is just how they live, and there's punishment involved. There's whatever the dynamic is, none of my fucking business. None of my fucking business. You know what I mean? And if it works for you, cool. Again, I have no judgment.
yeah,
I live by this statement right here. Like, you do you, boo boo. That's fine, you know. But part of why I don't talk about everything that I do is because then, uh, as a woman, men think that that gives them free reign to do whatever, right? So I was talking to a guy, and then that control thing for me, right? Of there's not a mutual understanding, So I was talking to a guy, and we had been talking for a while, and we were talking about just things that we liked, and I said, I like when I'm with someone, I have a really good connection. That they like, catch me in the hallway somewhere at a barbecue and put their hand up my skirt or grab me and kiss me and like that. Again, that kind of private,
hmm,
they're not doing it in the middle of the party in the backyard trying to get up my skirt, but there's that like later
yeah,
this is happening, right? That foreplay all day that we talk about, where type of thing. And then when I met up with this guy, like he tried to do that. He tried to like, and I'm like, this is not the time nor the place of what we were doing, right? The situation was not even remotely an appropriate time for that. And so I was like, what the fuck are you doing, dude? Like, we're looking at houses to rent and you're slamming me in the fucking bathroom, like pushing me into the bathroom and shit. Like, what are you doing? He goes, well, I thought you said you liked that. And I was like, I do when we're at a fucking barbecue.
so the barbecue was the right place. The semi private looking at houses.
Well, it was we had never been on a date before. We were going to be roommates in the house. Like we weren't we it was, you know what I mean? So it was like this is it, and he was late. So I have the real estate agent who is pressed for time, and he's fucking acting like a 12-year-old. And I
Yeah,
I, I was like, dude, you missed the mark, you know. And he's like, well, you said that you liked that. And I was like, yeah, at the right time in the right place. And I said, when I was with someone that I had a really good connection with.
and right now you're a fucking asshole, and I don't
Right.
have a
And right now, I'm irritated as fuck with you.
right.
You know,
That's something that we can definitely go into a little more is knowing how not to piss people off, and so so that you can get the sex that you want.
Yeah.
Because it is about doing something all day.
Yeah.
Sometimes it is that whole, hey, here this is what we're gonna do tonight,
Damn, you look
and
good in that skirt. I can't wait to.
uh-huh, the little whispers
Right.
all day long.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
and then you can't piss anybody off. So you know you
Right.
can't you can't be 20 minutes late, and
And
not
being
be
disrespectful on the phone
right.
and yeah. Yes.
So
Yes.
there is all that, unless you really want the frustration, and then but frustration typically doesn't lead to good. As much as you think it
Right.
does not, because you still have to be able to function, and
Yeah.
especially as you get older, guys. You know, let's be honest with it's a lot harder. The fact that we get a hard on at all is like a miracle. And yes, when
And
you're in
it's
your
getting harder for men to get a hard on.
yeah, and when you're in your 20s, it's okay. You're in your teens, and you're in your teens. You can't keep it soft. And in your 20s, you're like, let's go. In your 30s, you start realizing, hey, that doesn't always work anymore. Wait,
Right.
that's not like there. In your 40s, it's like you have to think about it. You might not need. This is not ED yet, right? This is just like
Right.
it's not necessarily
The
the
wind doesn't
automatic
blow when you get a hard on when like in your
right.
right. Well,
You have to
because men sexually peak, if we want to go there,
at
men
25.
sexually peak yeah, in their early 20s, right?
Yeah,
So for like 18 to 25 is when men are like in their sexual peak. And for women, it's their late 30s, early 40s.
yeah.
Which can I say I had some great fucking sex in my late 30s and early 40s. I mean, I definitely took advantage of that. And I am one of those women, by the way, that I name you men by like I never call them by their real name. They all have a nickname.
It's
That's a
all
real
by
thing.
their penis.
All guys are penis, yeah. Yeah, I still a lot of times do not refer to them as their actual name.
I am not someone that nicknames for the most part. I might have a nickname here and there for certain people. Um, but
I usually refer to them by what they did for a living, or like I had one who was significantly younger than me. He was always a really good time, and I just called him Boy Toy because he was, you know, he
yeah,
was a boy toy. He fit that. He was very good at it, that's for sure. He
I
was one of those that we just everywhere we could. We fucked on the side of the house. We fucked in the storage unit. Like I was doing shit with him that I didn't do when I was younger. Like I was fucking that boy everywhere we could. Yeah, I'll give you a ride home from the party tonight, the barbecue, the family barbecue that we're at. And oh, look, there's some desert right there. Want to pull over? Bend me over.
yeah, I'll give you a ride home.
I have no
Uh,
shame in my game. Don't get me wrong, but I have not. The other side of that is, and it because I'm so open, that I'm open about my sexuality, um, that people think I've had way more sex than I actually have. I actually have a relatively low number, all things considered. And I know it's not like two people. I've never been married. Well, ooh, I was married that one
wow,
time. I was gonna say I was never been married, but I was married that one time.
that one time,
Um,
that
but
one.
I wasn't married for years and years and years. So it wasn't like that. I have a relatively low number.
That's funny. I can't believe that you were like, I've never been married. I was like,
I've been single the majority of my adult life. Is that a good way to put it?
there we go. Um, I
Because
had
I always said, like, I know it's not going to be a relationship but we can have a good time until I meet someone that is going to be a relationship. So I just didn't stay in situations that I knew weren't going anywhere. I just wasn't down for that. So I'm like, let's just call it what it is. Let's just fucking have a good time and, and move on. And the couple that I mean, I had relationships with, but they usually didn't last for very long because there's a reason why I'm single. I'm a fucking bitch. Like I am fucking needy, whiny, spoiled brat, fucking neurospicy, throw temper tantrums. I'm a fucking bitch sometimes.
I
I will
am.
also rub your back and your feet and love you like no one has ever loved you before.
Yeah. Um. Let's see. Eddie was no sex, so that kind of broke me.
Yeah.
I was before Eddie, so there was also a difference after my brother died. You know, before my brother passed away. So one of the things I probably have even said this on this show. I go in, and it was the first day when my really good friends started this job at this bar, right? And so we go in, and we go in real early because he went in real early. Bartenders go there like at 4, start their shifts, right? Or 5 or 7, it doesn't matter. But stupid early for being there all night. And so I was there for an hour or two. I had a couple drinks, and another one of my friends came in and said, "Hey, do you want to go and watch a movie or something? Like, go chill out for a little bit." Now, I don't even think we had sex. I think we really did go and watch a movie or something. I can't
Right.
remember at this point. It doesn't matter at this point. You know, if I did or I didn't, it doesn't fucking matter.
Right.
So I come back to the bar because that was always the plan. It was just, like it was early. So hey, let's go have dinner. Let's go and do something. So we did. I came back to the bar, and I ended up taking somebody home that night. So my brother calls me the next morning and says, "Hey, slut, I heard you were doing blah 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 blah." And I'm like, "How the fuck do you know that?" Like,
Right. You're like,
like
it's been 8 hours. Like,
you weren't there. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
it just so happens he talked to one of our friends who was there, who I didn't even know, and I didn't know that until after my brother died.
Oh, yeah.
That he goes, "Yeah, I remember the one time you went home with somebody, it took, and we were," and I'm like, "Oh my god, that was fucking you. That was you." He would never tell me. He goes, "I know everything." And so it made me feel kind of, like always watched and guarded. And part of that is probably really, really good. But the other side of that is I wouldn't do some things. And the very first time I did a thing at the bar, one of the demos at the bar with the bondage club, I made sure I was in a mask.
Right.
And mind you, the person I was afraid of that always hung out there came right up and says, "Oh my god," and knew exactly who I was.
Right. It didn't even do you any good to
Didn't do any good, like
right.
whatsoever. And I got a call that day too. So I hear you're out doing bondage demos.
So, well, yeah, so that for me that it was that I was around a lot of people that were into that. And so like I said, men were saying that they were having sex with me that never had sex with me. I actually had an argument 20 years later with someone about that. And I'm like, I did not fuck that dude. Like, no, we were not. I was like, I mean, he went down on me quite a bit, but like, we never actually, he would not have sex with me.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what he said. And I was like, well, babe, why would I lie to you? Like, it's been 20 fucking years. If I fucked him, I'd have fucked him. Like,
Right.
I don't have any issue saying whether I did or not. Um, yeah, but I mean, it was such a thing that everyone was up in everyone's business so much about everything during that time frame that I was just like, I know you guys are accusing me of doing shit I'm not even doing.
Mm-hmm.
And and so then that just made me want to be even more private about it, to be honest.
Yeah.
It just wanted me to, and I think for me personally, it's sacred for me. It always has been. And part of that
Okay.
is I've always kind of said, like, there are things that I want to do with my life partner that only he gets to experience with me.
Okay. I
Which it sounds kind of old fashioned when I say it out loud. And I have not like even thought about that in a really long time. But when I was younger, that was a lot of what held me back in certain ways was like, no, I want to save something for when I find that person that we just rock together. And then I want to do all the freaky shit. Then I want to experiment and have fun and do those things with someone I trust. I don't want to just randomly be doing things with people.
right. I mean, it makes sense. I think I've been in all states of that at some point or another. But my whole thing is that I come up with, you want me to produce a porn studio. I've said this many, many times. You want me to actually produce and write porn scripts because my mind goes all kinds of funky, fucked up places. Um, you don't want me doing porn.
You're like, you don't want me to actually do the porn. You
I
just
don't
want me
want to do
to.
the porn, but you definitely want me to like sit here and talk to
I
you
think
about it.
I've been in sexless relationships, so that's the other side you were talking about, like being in a sexless relationship, and yeah, the couple of men that I lived with, we cohabitated together. There was, yeah, there was not there. Uh, There was some, but it was not on a regular basis. And one of them, most of the time, it was using apparatuses. Right? He was so drunk, he was so fucked up that
Mhm.
it didn't work. But he was okay with getting me off.
Hey,
And in the moment, I was like, I don't care, I'm fucking coming. But really, it fucked with me because on some level, it's like, oh, he can't, I know now that it had nothing to do with me, but it took
right.
me, a while to really be okay with that because, and we did some shit like, yeah, we fucked when
Mhm.
we were in that mode. We were not.
You were not sitting there
It
making
was
love.
not.
Yeah,
It was not making love, or which I even hate using that term. I so hate using that
I,
term.
it makes me sick.
Like,
Like, uh
y-
huh.
y-
There are. I have been in very loving situations,
I,
very
mm,
tender,
I
very
have as
sweet.
well.
Right. Um, those are
And there's
normally
a
not the
time
ones
and
I
place for
remember.
that where you're like,
You
it's
know.
romantic and you're lighting candles and you're playing music and you're playing with each other and
Oh my
and
god.
then there's a
That
time and a place to fuck.
that whole thing just makes me feel like I just got a little sick in my stomach
It's
when you said that. Like,
a little puke in your mouth.
I,
Threw up a little in my mouth.
I am. I am I that shaded? Ooh. Am I that jaded that that little bit of like romance? Not that I don't like a nice candlelit dinner, and not that I don't like, but it doesn't belong in the bedroom. Um, like, yeah, when we get into that bedroom, we that's some business, and I can't imagine. I'm looking at. It's so funny because as we say that, I'm literally remembering a scene um from me and Eddie, one of the few times we did have sex,
Right.
and it was that it was sweet.
But
It was
there's a difference between kink and sex, right? I mean,
yeah,
because like we have to distinguish between that too, even though we're at the end of the hour. Like, you know, going to the bondage club is not about sex. Like,
not
there
always.
are kinks that it's not about. That's not what it's about, right?
Hmm.
And so, there are certain things, and we could have a whole show on fetish, like
Yeah.
different types of fetishes. And, and because a fetish is sexualizing something,
Hmm.
and kink is not. I mean, I knew a lot of people who, now I knew girls who came because of what was going on with them, because they were in that zone, but not because there was penetration,
Oh
not
yeah.
because there was other things going on. You know what I mean?
My I have a very good friend that bondage is not about sex, and very rarely it lead to an orgasm.
Right. I just
Um,
wanted to point that out because we're talking
yeah.
specifically about kink, and we talked about that a
Right.
lot. And I mean, and times and places and stuff. But a lot of times when you're talking about bondage and things like that, um, it has nothing to do with sex.
Yeah.
It's not 50 Shades of Grey, people.
Oh my God! Please don't. We can have a whole episode on how we could cut that thing down and like show how every bit of
Now,
it
I
was
think it's a
wrong.
great movie, but um and I get why, it did as well as it did.
Well, it did as well as it did because it's the first time someone that openly said, "Hey, this is there," but
Yeah.
it was obviously not written by someone who actually knows what they're doing. Is the problem?
And that's okay, because it was the fantasy of the idea of what that would be like, right? And
Um,
there are people that there's dominatrix that there are women out there that are dominatrix that get paid a lot of money to humiliate men, and
there's a lot of things that can happen. The
maybe I've
issue,
missed my calling.
you know, I've often thought about this. There was a time when I choreographed for strippers, and I should have like kind of maybe stayed in that vein. Um, three things would have happened. Number one, I would have never got this fat. Number
Right.
I was always a little too round to actually do that. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like I could never actually. I was never. I was always a cub in a time when, and I grew up in a time when the mode was either super buff or heroin chic. So
Right.
you had to either be, the Calvin Klein models, and you wanted the dark eye. Like I remember people smudging their eyes, under eyes, hollowing out their eyeballs, and or you had to be like built like a brick shit house, and
Right.
I was never either, and I will probably never be either.
I so I um gosh, we could have a whole nother hour about this, because then I start thinking of the, like, humiliation part of it. And for me, that is, I I have so many opinions about that.
Um,
In
it's
certain
catch.
situations, because it's not. I've heard of some very extreme. I met a girl who said that, like, she lived in a dog cage and was thrown scraps, and um to professional dominatrix, and very very rich men going to not be in control and have someone tell them
Yeah,
what a douchebag they are, or whatever the case may be, because they know that they're a douchebag. Um, and the psychological part behind that, right? Because there's a psychological thing to all of this as well.
it's one of my problems with a lot of what's going on online right now. With the cash doms
Yeah,
and stuff. One of my big problems is that um, they're doing a lot of. I think they're doing a lot of damage to some people.
right,
And I'm not trying to yuck everyone's yum. And if you're doing it, do it. But I spend a lot of time working with guys trying to undo half the shit that's being said,
right,
because at the end of the day, we're not talking about the people that are making tons of money. A lot of times, it's
Right.
some 40-year-old guy that is no longer young. He might not be svelte. He's in
Right.
a space that he doesn't know how to deal with where he is in the community
Right.
and hasn't found his place. And he ends up, finding one of these guys that, he pays for attention. And he's
Yeah.
telling him that and it's kind of hot and it's kind of cool and it's kind of this. And he shows him his dick every once in a while but he
Right.
doesn't actually let him touch it. It's just, I have
And
somebody.
there's girls on that side too that
Yep.
are, sugar daddies, sugar babies, where they don't have to have sex with them, but they want,
And the girls, the same thing on
same
the straight
difference.
side of it.
Yeah. Yes.
I've seen it on. Typically, I don't see girls. I don't see women doing the pay stuff. Normally that's a primarily male thing. I would say, in my experience, and if you guys know of anybody, not anybody, but if you've seen it a little bit more, let us know down in the comments. I'm curious because I don't see that as much in my
I mean, I've definitely seen videos of women who, um, financial doms, is that what they call them?
findoms. Yeah,
Findoms, yeah, where they're, like, telling you how to do it and
yeah,
how, they have men who just send them money and
right. They're
pay
on
for
the
their lunch and, they go and, "I want this back, you need to send me this amount of money for." So here's where I joke that I miss my calling. I joke about that because at the end of the day, I don't think in good conscience I could do that.
yeah.
I don't. I just don't think that I could. I could not be a dom because I don't want to humiliate you. I don't. And there's some want of having that humiliation to a degree when you're doing that, right? And like I don't want to be humiliated either. That's where I say I'll do some kinky shit with you, but the whole sub dom, like, no.
Um, Humiliation is one of my major kinks. I like it. I like being on both sides of it. Sometimes, if they're creative enough.
Right.
Again, the my big problem a lot of times is that I am super creative, and you want me to run the porn studio. You want me to set up these scenes. Um, and I was with somebody not too long ago that it was definitely part of his thing, but
Right.
I also realized that I wanted to build him up while I did it. So while I was doing, it was really weird. Some of the things, looking back, I was brainwashing the kid, um, doing some
Right. We're
hypnosis
not
and
getting
some
into details.
right where but I was doing some hypnosis techniques and some affirmation techniques and some things along with
Right.
that, and you are valuable because I want you.
Right. Ooh. Yeah, and that can become a slippery slope, right?
Right.
Depending on who it is and how
Yeah.
how you do that. Yeah.
So.
Yes. And because there is a point where it can this I know this is gonna be controversial that it can be abusive,
Mhm.
right? There is again, I've seen relationships where it's like that is not a sub dom relationship, though that's what they're calling it. That is a him he's controlling every move that she's making, and
And
that's not healthy. You know what I mean? Like that's
right,
not healthy.
there has to be. I do believe there has to be a balance, and there has to be a
Yeah.
way to, um, if anyone's ever trying to restrict you from seeing your friends and family,
Right. Yeah. Yes.
like really restrict you, like
Right.
without, you know,
If they want to know where you are every time you leave the house and want you to check in 4 or 5 times and
yeah.
yes, there are signs.
Are
Yeah.
you? Yeah. Do you want to? Are you allowed to leave the house? You know,
Right.
is one thing. You know,
Right.
and restricting not always being able to go out, not always being able to do that. That's one sign. That's one thing. When it becomes that you never get to see your friends,
Yeah. Yes.
when you all can't see your family, when you can't
Yeah.
call them, when you know it there's signs you should really start looking at if that's something that you want to participate in. And it's
Right.
always a choice. You always have a choice.
You always have a choice. And you can always, and if it is a truly healthy um interaction, if it's a truly healthy relationship, because a sub and a dom is, there's a relationship there in some
Yeah.
way. If you are um living that lifestyle, and or you have a dom on a regular basis. I've known people who,
Hmm.
they met with their dom once a week or whatever it was, um that the other person respects when you say
Yellow.
yellow. Yeah, or you know what, this is no longer working for me. This situation is not working for me,
Right.
or whatever the case may be. That there's a mutual loving, caring relationship going on, regardless of whether it is an actual committed relationship to each other. I've known people who have been in very healthy, committed,
Hmm.
with their dom, and they were a sub and they were married to someone else, and it was a separate thing. And it was, again, it wasn't about sexual, it wasn't about being sexual,
Yeah.
right?
Not always. Yeah.
Um,
Definitely.
right, it's not always about being sexual. Yes.
Exactly. Wow, this is a great conversation.
I know, and we could like keep going and keep going and keep going, but because we do these lives, we have to cut this shit off.
Yeah.
Um, Own who you are and what you want, and no, you don't have to share it with everyone, but you should be able to share it with your partner, on what turns you on, what you like, what you don't like, and be open-minded to allow them to do the same things, right?
Exactly.
To be able to open up about the same things.
Exactly. Don't yuck someone's yum. Hey, that's not. You know what? That's not something I want to try. A
Right.
very nice way to say that. You know what? That's not something that spanking.
Not my thing.
It's not my thing. It's not my kink. I've
Yeah.
said that before. It's not my kink.
Yeah.
Pup play. It's not my kink.
Right.
It's really popular right now. It's like, no thanks, but thank you. Have a nice day.
Right. Right. Not my thing.
Not my
Yeah.
thing. So, all right. You can find us both at spiritualsexandcandy.com. You can pick up our journals, pick up cool merch like what Heather is wearing. You know, Fortunately, you can't pick up her titties. I'm sorry, guys.
No.
Um, but you guys are all loved, and we will see you next week.
Bye. Love you.
Everyone here at the True Awesome Network asks you to please subscribe, like, comment, and spread awesome.